Hello, everyone. Good evening. Welcome to another instalment of In Conversation with at ŌNCE Club. My name's Dominique. Today we have Ruaraidh Grubb, who is going to be talking all about how he started his amazing platform ŌNCE, which is simply put a digital wardrobe styling app, which is amazing. I've been using it for about a year now, and I still am very excited about how quick it is. After being in person shopping for a long time, I don't think there's a tool that is quicker for me to put together a lookbook or a recommendation for a client. We're going to talk about sort of how he started the company and you know, what was his inspiration for that and the journey to get there. We're also going to just talk about a little bit about how he's working with stylists and personal shopping teams, etc. And then, you know, kind of what that also meant through coming through the pandemic. And then towards the end, we will open it up for Q&A. So hi, Ruaraidh, thanks for joining us or joining me today.
Hey Dominique, thanks for having me. Really happy to be here.
Thank you. So anyone who I know, I'm always talking about ŌNCE, and I'm very geeky and excited about it. But I would love to get to know a little. How would you sort of describe ŌNCE from your words, from your mouth, exactly?
So we usually call it a social commerce platform for fashion. So like you said, I think the two main kind of core features are the lookbook builder and the digital wardrobe. So it allows personal stylists and sales associates to really quickly and easily, 60 times faster than using Adobe or PowerPoint, to create lookbooks and for clients and send them via WhatsApp or text or WeChat, straight from the app, and at least twice as fast as anything else out there on the market. And it also allows you to manage a client's wardrobe as well. And what's really cool about that is that you can then kind of promote sustainable shopping, and you can include a client's existing pieces in your lookbook recommendations. So super personalized and super comprehensive.
Yeah, it's really exciting about, and we can talk a little bit more about the sort of the technology, if you will. But, one of the things that struck me in the beginning was that you could sort of take pictures that you already had. A lot of digital apps that were similar were kind of required to take a picture maybe on a hanger or something that was quite specific and then upload it, whereas you actually could, with ŌNCE, you could upload from Instagram even and have those pictures kind of pick out what you were wearing and have that sort of start as your wardrobe. So you wouldn't actually have to sort of be doing more work, because chances are, if you're anything like me, you have thousands of images already, and so you could just pop those in really quickly, and then you would have the sense of what you have. And it worked really well from a client perspective as well, because they also were able to just give you the pictures or upload those pictures for themselves and not have to worry about actually taking the right picture to kind of then get uploaded. It was really exciting.
I think you're spot on. And we realized pretty quickly that, especially for the digital wardrobe piece of the platform, it's all about just making it super quick and easy. And you just have to upload something and that's it. And the platform and the editing team behind the scenes will do everything else. So yeah, like you say, our job or what we want to do is make life easier for you, make life quicker for you, and, allow you to kind of cut out the admin and just get on with hopefully the more enjoyable stuff. So that's the way that we built the platform. And there's loads of AI and a whole bunch of moving parts under the hood that make that really quick and seamless for you.
Absolutely. And so, I'd love to know how ŌNCE really came into fruition. What were you doing before? Did you think you were going to be working in fashion, with your own business? I'm very intrigued.
Well, my own business, definitely, but I think even just seeing this much of me is probably enough to tell you that I'm not from the fashion sector. I think probably the haircut alone would tell you that much. No, so I did one previous business myself, which was a car sharing platform. And one thing that I really liked about that was that, we saw a big business opportunity there, but also a big kind of environmental impact opportunity. There's just a phenomenal amount of pollution caused by cars and also congestion. And there's a huge amount of kind of wasted capacity. So, you know, something silly like over 60% of cars on the motorways at any one time will only have one occupant. We've seen that in cities, you know, things like, you know, Uber and, you know, Lyft have done quite a good job of making a dent on that. A company called BlaBlaCar over in Europe and a couple more have done an incredible job of car sharing. And the genesis of ŌNCE Club, the reason that kind of got me into this was I came across a statistic talking about how much of our kind of clothes are wasted. The statistics are that in the UK, we only wear about 30% of the items that we own. In the US, it's down at 20%. And the US, 25 billion pounds worth, that's the weight rather than the value of clothes, go to landfill every single year. And, you know, I think that, again, you know, there's some really cool things happening with, you know, upcycling, resale, rental, you know, like people making a really cool impact on the environmental damage of that. And but that's kind of where we started. We said, well, look, this is crazy. And, you know, with the kind of mentality that information is power, and that if we can kind of digitize and bring these unused items in our wardrobes online, then we've got a much better chance of understanding what we have, reusing it, upcycling it, you know, feeding it into retail, whatever it is. So that was the genesis of the business. Started with a kind of consumer facing app, and from there we iterated a bit. We're now pretty focused on B2B. That's both kind of you know, sales associates for brands and retailers, and also for personal stylists, but very much still with our eye on B2C and this kind of, you know, longer term vision of really mobilizing the world's wardrobes.
Awesome. So how do you just go about sort of starting, you know, with kind of having the statistics that you had, and being able to kind of see that there was a real kind of, you know, gap in the market? How do you sort of go about by saying, okay, we're going to, you know, get to the stage of saying we're going to sort of start digitizing people's wardrobes so they can use it more? Like, what's your first sort of steps? Did you do a lot of research? Did you just try, were you trying a few different things?
Yeah, so a bunch of research and then a bunch of testing out different things. So, I mean, as I've already said, you know, I'm not from the fashion industry. So those first few months were just going to talk to people that knew, you know, a lot more than I did, which is basically everyone. And still, you know, and so, you know, it's saying, okay, well, look, this is the way we're thinking about it. What do you think about this as a solution? Would you use this? Would you buy this? So we did months and months of doing that, really understanding the market and really understanding, you know, how the way people think. Then we built some wireframes and we started testing those. Wireframes are kind of like concepts for what we wanted the app and the website to look like. And then bit by bit, we would try different things. So as I've already said, you know, there's the problem with the digital wardrobe thing is getting your items into the digital wardrobe. No one wants to go take photos of everything that they have at home and upload them. So we had to try a whole bunch of different things for that, from you know, sending a team around to, you know, VIP clients' houses to do it, to trying to scrape websites, to scraping, you know, inbox data, to eventually where we got to, which is kind of this, you know, AI image editing thing. But yeah, so we had to, you know, try a whole bunch of things, and, you know, each one of those things that I've outlined, you know, that would be kind of months in testing and trialing out different versions.
So fascinating. And then I remember, correct me if I'm wrong, when we first spoke, you sort of said that you deliberately really wanted to perfect and refine the AI part of that before sort of coming to launch. That was something that was really important for you. Do you still sort of stand by that process of kind of really waiting about, you know, to have that really refined product before sort of launching? You know, is there anything that you would change about that part of the
Yeah,
process?
I do. I mean, I think looking backward, that, you know, there's lots of things I would change. I would try and speed up the process wherever we could, which is kind of easy to say in retrospect. The, the problem you have at the time is that it's really hard to distinguish signal from noise. So, you know, like quite often people, you kind of run these tests, and however neutral you try and be, people are like, yeah, I think it's a great idea, or yeah, I think it's great. And it's really hard to tell until you're 3 months down the line, and if you see if those people are still using the platform, whether that was signal, which is good, or noise, which is basically not good.
Yeah.
So I would look for ways to speed up that process, but in a way it's not, in a way that's hard to do, and we're going after such a big problem that it's always going to be a very meandering way to get there. We have now much smaller targets to achieve, and then we're right, okay, now we can address the next bit. So it's, I started off thinking, cool, this is what we want to do, we need to do exactly this and do it as quickly as we can, and then kind of realize that, okay, that doesn't work at all. You need to break it down into 20 smaller problems and solve one before you can solve the next one. But so yeah, I've learned a lot along the way, and we would definitely maybe validate better than we did at the beginning. But everything that we've learned along the way, and the amazing people such as yourself that we've managed to get to meet and talk to and test things with along the way, that that's all been completely integral to where we are now, and is and is an amazing kind of base to have.
Oh, for sure. I think that was absolutely something that's really struck me with your platform and your team, was that you were really keen to really get people who sort of were in the business, who were using it tangibly, and to get their feedback. And also to your point, you sort of said, you always kept us in touch. You're like, oh, we've made this change. Does that make sense to you? Do you want to have a look? We've upgraded this. Do you want to try this? And it was great. And you was always really receptive, because I think, even though a lot of the problems are shared, I think with this particular idea around sort of wardrobe styling and things like that, everyone sort of has a slightly different approach. So the feedback, like you said, it must be a lot to kind of filter down. But essentially, I think, with where the product is now, it's super intuitive. So, with the editing aspect, so just to give our viewers some color to kind of how ŌNCE works, you can upload a picture from, say it's an image of yourself, or maybe it's a piece, and it essentially kind of does I would say like a super Photoshop of those particular items. And so usually if it's a piece from, like, say, an Instagram, it's what you have is almost kind of like these floating images of what you were wearing. And I've had there was one particular look where I think I was wearing like a hat, and I had a bag, and it picked up everything, like the trousers, the top, the hat, the boots, and then it gave me that whole look in essentially individual pieces. So do you guys have a team that works on that, or is this being picked up automatically?
So most of it is picked up automatically, and then it goes through a kind of quality assurance process at the end, where any kind of final manual edits are done. But yes, so that's kind of one way that you can get your products into the platform. And there's a couple more. So if you work at a retailer, if you're a sales associate at a retailer, we'll get all of that retailer's product and we'll put it into your platform for you, so that if you're just recommending products from your retailer to your customers, everything's already there. You can already browse it, filter it by category, color, season, etc. So you already have everything at your fingertips, and we do all of that for you. But also, we pull in products into the platform even for independent personal stylists from a range of retailers, including Matches and Harvey Nichols. So you have that already in there, and you can browse through, and it just makes it that much quicker to then go and put your edits together for customers and send them straight out.
So essentially, if you're for example, if you're an independent personal shopper and you want to do a lookbook for a client, or you want to do some recommendations, you can sort of go, okay, they have, as an example, Matches Fashion on here, and you guys also have Stella McCartney, right? And a few others, and they can pull from these actual, livestock, essentially, from their actual feed that's currently on their website at the moment, and put together in a look with your client in mind, right?
Exactly. So yeah, just makes it all that much quicker. And even if you're still doing the thing where you go and take images from a website, and then you want to put all of those images together to create your lookbook for your client. We've got one of our clients is a personal shopping kind of boutique company, and just as a reference, it used to take one of their shoppers 8 hours to put together an edit, doing it that way. Now they use ŌNCE. We built a kind of white label version of our platform for them, and it takes them about 30 minutes. So just so much faster, because you take those images that you've got off Matches or Net-a-Porter or whatever it is manually. you put them into the platform, and the platform will automatically remove the background, tag them, and so you've already got them there. We can create bespoke templates for you for your lookbook, so that it's just literally a couple of taps. It's just so much quicker and easier.
I mean, is that for you outside of time? What would you sort of say are your most sort of unique, if you want to say, selling points, or part of your platform? What's really differentiating you from similar products that are out there at the moment?
So I mean, time is what we pride ourselves on. We understood quickly from speaking to retailers, this is about saving them time, allowing them to service more customers in a more personalized way, especially online, in less time. And so the platform does that better than anything else that's out there. A couple of other things are the ease of setup. So if you're a retailer, we don't need to integrate with anything to get you up and running and to run a pilot. Or if you're independent personal stylist, you just sign up and drop us a message, and we set you up with the extra professional functionality. Yeah, and the fact that we have a native iPhone app is unique. And yeah, and the ability, as I mentioned earlier, to incorporate customers' existing wardrobe items in their looks, that's super unique as well. No one else out there has that.
Yeah, and I've used that functionality actually, where I've built things from a personal wardrobe and then brought in the new things, and it's allowed me to connect with say consumers, to get an idea of what they like, get their brief, and then build what they already have with what they're looking for. So, and I think that's something that we used to, as a personal shopper, we used to experience a lot. And sometimes if you're lucky enough to have been working with a particular client for a while, you do have this you have the knowledge in your head of what they have, but it's not actually very easy to get a picture of them wearing it. Or there are some places, for example, like Net-a-Porter, where you could sort of take what they've bought before and incorporate that with new things, but that is not every retailer. So it was really difficult, and this is actually a really great way to now, with I think 10 years on, we're finding clients do like to share what they wore, the things that you help them buy. So you can actually store these pieces for that client, even if they're not, be integrate, taking a record of what they have, and then really going saying, oh, this is going to go with this is going to go with that, you're going to love this, etc., etc. And it just makes it so much more interactive for the client, and it brings it alive, so they don't have to think too much about, oh, is that going to work, is that not, because you've already baked it in for them, which is really exciting. And like you said, I think it's accurate sometimes doing like a 12-page sort of online lookbook for a client is sometimes like a day's work, going through lots of different sites, trolling through all the different websites, getting all the pictures, getting the right picture, etc., etc. It could be a really full-on time, and now you've just essentially just shrunk it down into this really manageable chunk. It's almost you can't, I mean, yeah, it's you can't almost believe it, but it's real, it exists.
That's it. And there's a couple of add-ons. So I mean, you can also tag items in a client's wardrobe to say, this is wish list, or this the client purchased. You can browse and filter their wardrobe pieces. You can leave comments for yourself, like this, didn't like this, either in respect of each item or in respect of each outfit. So, as you go on and you use it more and more, it becomes more and more valuable. And the other thing that ŌNCE offers as well is, I mentioned that, one of our early things that we did to test was sending a team around to photograph a client's wardrobe items for VIPs. We still offer that, and we do some pretty big jobs for some of the personal stylists that we work with, and some clients all over the world that have big wardrobes. So again, that's somewhere that if that's what the client wants, if they have multiple residences and they want to be managing what items they have where, what's moving where, get assistance from maybe their team, then we can make all of that super streamlined. And one thing that's happened during COVID is that things have to become a bit more remote, a bit more distance enabled, I guess. And ŌNCE has really allowed a lot of personal stylists to do their job in a super personalized, super informed way, without having to travel, because they haven't been able to.
Absolutely. It's really interesting that you brought into what were you talking about? You said the multiple residences, and it's so true, because, you know, when you have a lot of those types of clients and they travel a lot, and they'll be like, oh no, this is this house, this is that house, and even they forget. And I've, you know, done things where I've found that they're requesting doubles of things. I'm like, no, you have that, you've bought that, and obviously they've forgotten, or they have to get another one because they don't have it. So yeah, this is just a really nice centralized way to get it all together. And even I remember dealing with a retailer, and they actually, because, you know, maybe controversial, but they're a furrier, so they actually used to store, they would take it back for you if you wanted in season. So imagine having, like, you know, your multiple residents, plus you've got half your stuff in a store in Austria somewhere. You know, it's very hard to keep that all together in your mind and know what you have and what you don't have. And so this is just, you know, such a simple, centralized way to do that. I'd love to know how you guys really went around building your awareness and kind of getting the following that you have.
Well, so you said earlier, you know, that it's been really important to us to kind of make sure the product's in the right place. That's still true today. You know, I mean, the vast majority of our resources go into product and building it out and testing, you know, every single little piece of it. So we haven't really done any marketing at all. You know, we kind of tried a couple of things. So we launched earlier this year, you know, after 3 years building the product on the back of a really successful pilot with Stella McCartney. And since then, we've, you know, it's just been kind of direct reach outs to key decision makers and some personal stylists, you know, that we know or that we've come across. But yeah, it's been very, you know, that's very much been the approach in terms of building awareness. We do very little on social. If anything, we do zero kind of inbound marketing. So yeah, it's very much, you know, we're trying to kind of build on what we've done so far directly. And then I think once we look back at the B2C version, that's where probably we start thinking more about marketing and building kind of brand awareness. Because at the moment, what the customer sees is typically white label. So whether you're a sales associate at a retailer or an independent personal stylist, we will design with you exactly how you want all of the customer deliverables to look like. So the lookbooks, the outfits, even kind of item recommendations that you can send, will make it all completely bespoke to you. So it has your design, your logo, looks exactly how you want it to look. So there's a lot of people out there that have received, you know, these lookbooks or outfit recommendations created using ŌNCE, but have no idea who ŌNCE is because they just see the logo of the retailer or the stylist.
Right. Absolutely. So you kind of have this really great way of sort of, you know, when it needs to be present, it's present, but actually you don't have to be. And, you know, I think it's a product that's super, it kind of does what it says on the tin. You don't, you know, so, and it works well, and that's what it is, and that's kind of like how it sells. When you started, obviously you said you kind of had this idea of it being a little bit more B2C. At what stage did you realize, you know, how much of a strong tool this would be for like teams and personal stylists? What was the like pivot in that?
I think pretty soon we saw the value in that, but it took a while to get the product to a place where it could, you know, it could really solve that problem. And I think that was probably maybe towards the end of last year that really got into a strong place. I mean, you know, it's expensive and time consuming to build any sort of a platform, and, you know, mobile apps are, you know, doubly expensive and time consuming to web apps. So it took a long time to get the product into a place where it could really efficiently do the job. And now we've been able to build an attraction. We've really picked up the pace, not just of building, but also of being able to test, you know, run, you know, UX tests and focus groups and, you know, really improve it. So that's on a really good trajectory now.
Awesome. Did you find, I mean, you touched on it earlier with regards to pandemic, you know, how were you feeling? I like to ask this question because I'm very intrigued to know how different businesses and brands as well just kind of approached it with kind of going into lockdown and kind of knowing, you know, did you sort of almost know that it was going to be a great opportunity to kind of get people to think more digitally, or did you still face the same kind of uphill struggles of kind of knowing that, you know, there are restrictions and so there was also a shift, I suppose, in shopping in general. So I suppose even from a trickle down point of view, that could affect you as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think you're spot on. I mean, I would say it affected us in kind of multiple ways. You know, at the start of 2020, we were talking to a few like big retailers about running some pilots. A couple of them were in pretty advanced discussions, and then suddenly COVID bit, and having been talking about dates for launch and stuff, suddenly they're like, sorry, we've been told no more budget, no new initiatives, hit pause on everything. And the world just kind of stood still for a few months while everyone waited to see like how long it was going to last. So that hurt us in the beginning, and we decided pretty quickly on, let's just really get stuck into products. So we started doing more and more UX tests, more and more prototyping, more and more concept design, and really that's how we spent the most of the year. And that ended up paying dividends towards the end of the year when we got into that pilot, and everything was on the product side was in such a good place that the pilot went really well. I think that COVID really accelerated the need for what we do. Like I say, if you can't travel, you need something that stops you needing to travel a lot more than when you could. But yeah, so it was this kind of to and fro. Budget was cut all over the place, so a lot of people were told no new initiatives, don't look at any new kind of tech or any new solutions. But then at the same time, people are like, wow, okay, we actually really need something to deal with this changing climate.
Yeah, for sure. And I really liked and I don't know if this was something that you purposefully done, or did you kind of happen to post it, but you on social were doing these really quick IGTV lives with different stylists or kind of stylist influencers, and it was just really, I mean, for one, it was a really great way you weren't even necessarily talking about own kind. It was really just kind of like almost like a community builder, and I thought that was such a nice way to kind of build a community, and to also just get to know, and also a really great way for your customers, the B2C side, to kind of understand, to meet new personal shoppers, which is actually not something that is very always easy to do.
Definitely, and you were kind enough to do an awesome one with us as well. So and that was kind of the point. It's got us to kind of meet people like yourself and understand how you were thinking about things, and how like the questions that you just asked me, it was an opportunity for us to ask you. How do you think the world's going to change? How are you going to do your job if this climate carries on? How have things changed already? How are your clients reacting? So that was amazing. And then getting to kind of touch on topics that we thought were important as well, kind of how sustainability is getting more and more kind of prominent. And like you say, start to build a bit of a community and start to get under the skin of the things that we were doing a bit more.
Yeah, for sure. And it was, I think in that time, it was so important to kind of get to the human side of, what it is. I think, like you said, talking about sustainability, talking to, putting an actual human to a stylist. I know a lot of people who sort of work within like online capacities of being, shoppers and stylists. And, especially early on, there was, because it was all sort of emails and what have you, they didn't realize that they didn't really kind of get a sense of who they were working with. And this kind of really, and now we've gone to this next stage of, like you said, social commerce. So now even more so, have this kind of idea of, I can actually see who I'm talking to and get to know what their personality is like. And it's a really nice touch. And even from a personal shopper stylist, like, I found myself tuning into other shoppers talks as well, because I always want to know what other people are talking, what they're doing, how they work, what is, I find, fascinating. And there was, I suppose similar to ŌNCE Club, it was kind of something to bring a community together of like-minded people who might not have met otherwise.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we've been living a pretty strange, different way of life for the past, year and a half to what we were before. And
Right.
like you say, you kind of, you, especially at the beginning, you feel pretty alienated, and it's kind of cool and comforting to know that other people are, experiencing it in different ways, and understand that and get to sharing that a bit as well.
Oh, for sure. So we're going to head to our Q&A questions. So if you have any questions, now is the time to put those in. But I would love, just one last question from me. I mean, what can we expect next from own kind, you know, do you have any plans that you can tell us that are, you know, new products coming, new brands coming, maybe? I don't know what you can tell us.
So we've got quite a lot of exciting things in the works, and the thing that we're heading to, which probably won't be until next year, is the B2C version, which is going to become pretty different to what's in there today. But yeah, so what we're looking at is something pretty all-encompassing. So not only can you get the kind of person-to-person level of experience you would get in store, but online from the palm of your hand, but also then all the things that come from having your kind of wardrobe digitized, like being able to feed things into resale or rental. So a pretty kind of cool, all-encompassing product. But yeah, so hopefully at some stage next year.
That's really exciting. So do you mean that you're going to kind of almost bringing everything full circle, from uploading a wardrobe to kind of bringing that kind of deep hop vestiaire, wherever you want to call it, vibe, into also then being able to kind of styling as well, but it'll be all under one umbrella?
Yeah, kind of. So I think we would feed into Depop and Vestiaire, and then also pull product from, you know, the platforms on the other side, the kind of new item platforms, and sit in between. So I guess if you kind of buy from Farfetch and you end up wanting to sell through Vestiaire, in between you bought that thing, you want to wear it hopefully a bunch of times. So that's where we want to fit in and kind of be the link in between, you know, getting that item and then using it and enjoying it via our own kinds, and then, you know, when the time comes, maybe feed it into a resale platform.
That's really, I think that's so cool. And also in a day and age where there's always lots of new cool apps, but in some ways I think some of us also want to have less apps. So you want to be able to have a way that things go feeding into each other, so you're not having to kind of have lots of different platforms. You can actually kind of work within one. I think that's what, you know, there's a reason why I mean, things like, you know, signing with Google, signing with Facebook is a really fun way to do things now, because people want to be able to just do, you know, they can't almost keep up. So this is a really great way to kind of keep it all relevant, keep it together, which is cool. I have a question here. For someone who is, what advice would you give to someone who's thinking of launching a digital app business?
So I would say, you know, definitely do that kind of validation work at the beginning. So probably the best thing that you can do is pen down your theories. You know, this is what we're going to do. This is who we're going to aim it at. This is how we're going to make money. And this is how we're going to market it, or this is how we're going to get to customers. And then go take it to someone experienced. So, you know, angel investors are always a really good one, because they're interested in early stage companies, and they've seen so many things that they'll quickly be able to tell you, like, look, that's really, really difficult. I would think about trying to address that in a different way. A piece of advice I got that I think is really relevant is that when someone more experienced than you points out a problem, they're almost always right. But when they propose a solution, they're much less likely to be right. So, which is natural, right? Because you obviously know a lot more about what you're doing. But yeah, I think it's really tempting in the beginning to think, I'm so in love with this idea that I'm going to do. You know, they're wrong. I'll make it work. It's probably going to be really, really, really hard to make it work. And they will have seen multiple people, you know, multiple talented people try at it and not be able to. So I would really listen to that advice. And I think maybe in the beginning I was a bit headstrong at times. So yeah, I would, do the validation work and really do try and take it on board and try and cut out your confirmation bias, you know, which is that thing that, you know, you tell your mum about it and she's like, that's such a great idea, you should definitely do that. And you're like, yeah, it is a great idea. You need to bear in mind that that's your mum telling you that, and that actually you're kind of latching onto the things that you want to hear, rather than like looking at the actual data and really taking on board the more negative criticism.
I think that's great advice. And I think it's something I've also, you know, from a very non-digital idea, but I've seen the same thing, that it's sometimes leaning into the critical, the constructive criticism, or like, you know, people bringing problems was such a sticking point. But then actually the more I started to realize that, okay, well, if I'd much rather focus on a solution. So leaning into it actually meant that I had better insight going 100%. Forward. So and it's nice that it kind of, whatever industry you're in, it kind of seems to replicate the same way, you know, kind of leaning into the criticism is actually a good thing in the end, in the long run.
100%. I like to think of the negative criticism as lighthouses. And if you're, if you're kind of sailing through choppy waters, which you always are, and someone tells you, look, you need to solve this problem, you probably do need to solve it. Otherwise you're going to, run into that set of rocks and get ruined. So when someone gives you negative criticism, they're pointing out a problem to you that you need to solve.
Mm-hmm.
And the really cool thing about that is, especially if they're, for example, an investor, if they give you a problem, you go solve that problem, and you come back to them a few months later and you go, you know what, you said that this was going to be difficult, I've solved it. They'll be really impressed. And if they're an investor and you want them to invest, that's going to make them a lot more likely to.
It makes them feel more comfortable from an investment point of view, because you're listening and you've also been able to solve, like you said, the issue.
That's it. You've listened and you've shown good execution, and you've shown kind of persistence and tenacity. So, I think those are all really appealing things in a founder.
Absolutely. So a couple more here. So I've got one more, another question that says, do you intend to work with high street brands, or will you just be looking at luxury?
At the moment, we're focused more on luxury and premium. It just works much more for our models. I think, we've spoken to high street brands, but with what we're doing at the moment, there's not really the margin there to deliver this really personal one-to-one service, whereas a luxury you can, and it's worth it. Further down the line, there's things that we can automate, and when we're able to do that, then I think that makes much more sense. And especially in a B2C model, I think that you can have inbound as well as outbound, whereas most of what's our platform is being used for at the moment is outbound, sending recommendations to someone. Mm-hmm. So yeah, in the future, yes, but we're not really looking at high street at the moment.
Okay, cool. And then our last question is, are you able, well, it's kind of a two-parter, are you able to, so let me just get the right wording, are you able to sell from ŌNCE directly, like push sales to ŌNCE directly? And does that, for a stylist, I suppose they're asking as an independent stylist, does that result in commission?
So we don't really do commission at the moment. The way that it works is, if you say, okay, well, I typically sell a product from this place, we can help you get that into the platform. As I said earlier, we can completely customize what the customer sees. So if you want, we can put a button in there that takes the customer to the website and they go complete their purchase there. But then obviously, we're probably not getting paid a commission, and neither are you. Mm-hmm. So quite often what happens is we don't have a, view more or buy now button in there. So you're sending your client these outfit recommendations, and then they come back from you to buy those items. And so then, if you have a relationship with the retailer, you go yourself and you say, hey, can I buy these items and get my discount? Or otherwise, you kind of set it up however you would with the client. But yeah, we're kind of the tech that powers that whole process and just makes it much, much quicker. If you think of the existing process of putting together your PowerPoint or your Adobe lookbook, it's the same, just much, much quicker. So, however you're kind of doing that with on a commission basis at the moment.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. I just thought it would be great to let our members know, if you are a ŌNCE Club member, we are actually going to, Rory has kindly got a little demo that he's going to share with us that you can have a look at ŌNCE before you sign on. But I mean, I personally would recommend you sign on regardless. It saved me so much time with clienteling and kind of putting together recommendations. Anyway, just, and I've used all the tools, and there's literally nothing quick. And I used to do it in an email format, I'm just saying. So, I'm letting you know, it is really, really a great tool to use. But we will have the demo that we will put along with our key takeaways. And also, hopefully down the line, we are going to do a little workshop with our members, so you can actively see kind of literally how it works, how to pop things, just kind of really get the best benefits out of it. So you can really sort of, start using the tool that's going to, I definitely would make your life a lot easier, make you turn around certain projects with your clients quicker, which means you could probably take on more clients. So look out for those announcements on our ŌNCE Club platform. But Rory, it's been lovely talking with you as always.
Thank you so much. And just say, if anyone wants to reach out to us for a demo or to get set up, please, our website is own-kind.com. And there's, on the stylist page, there's a request a demo button there. So yeah, we'd love to help get you set up, and yeah, be saving you loads of time. And thank you so much for having me on.
No, honestly, it's my pleasure, really. I like I said, I find the software fascinating, and I've told a few shoppers about it, and they've also told me the same thing. So I assume everyone is going to be rushing to the website who watches this now. So and like Rory said, please contact the team directly. I think he's also on the platform, so you can DM him as well. But yeah, definitely get in touch for a demo. I think it's probably one of the best things, the smartest decisions you could make for 2021 this year. So do it. But thanks, Rory. It's been great, and I'll speak to you soon.
Thanks so much.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Bye.